Hello and welcome back to my channel. If it's your first time here, hi, what's up? I'm Gemma and I'm a senior UX UI designer who shares tips about UX for free. Today I'm going to do something a little bit different and I'm going to be mixing two passions together, which is talking about UX and also doing some makeup while answering some questions which I recently asked my Instagram community to give me some questions about UX or life or product design. Wherever they want to know, I ask them to ask me some questions. So if you're interested in UX and if you're interested in makeup, then maybe this is the channel for you. So while I prime my face, let's start off with an easy question, shall we? What's your favorite thing about being a UX designer? Oh, and by the way, all the products I'm using will be linked in the description below. Don't get anything for it, but if you want to maybe do this along with me, then next time you can. So what's my favorite thing about being a UX designer? I would say one of my favorite things is to actually meet a lot of people. Depending whether or not you work in agency or you work in-house, the beauty of being a UX designer is the fact that you get to work with a lot of different people, a lot of different stakeholders, a lot of different designers, project managers, even clients. And when you meet new people, you actually get the opportunity to learn new things. I know that sounds a bit strange, but it's true. And it's one thing that I always say to keep doing is to never stop learning. So yeah, my favorite thing about being a UX designer is meeting new people and learning new things. My next question is, what's your advice to a self-taught UX and UI designer? Figma, XD, or Sketch? I get asked this quite a lot, to be honest with you. My advice would be to stop thinking about software and start looking at your process. This is the one most common mistake that new designers make. Anyone who's just breaking into the UX field, product field, they're technically the same thing. Let's not get mixed up in job titles. When it comes to software, XD, Figma, and Sketch, they're all pretty much the same, I gotta be honest. One's web-based, the other ones are application-based. One can allow you to be more collaborative, the others don't. They all offer prototyping, so they're all pretty much the same. One process that I always like to align myself to is user-centered design and design thinking. Again, they're pretty much the same thing, but they all start off with emphasize, then define, ideate, prototype, and test. That's your process. Maybe I'll do a video on it one time and give you the in-depth way I tackle design challenges, but I pretty much follow the design thinking process. Any tips on staying focused, having trouble sticking to a schedule with my portfolio? Now, I feel like a lot of us suffer with this, and to be honest with you, I also have problems sticking to a schedule, believe it or not. I do have really good time management, and if I have a deadline, I can always hit that deadline. But what tends to help me is to write a list. It's up to you whether you want that list to be virtual or physical. I'm personally more of a physical list person. I like to be able to mark things off with a pen because I like that freedom of being able to scribble out stuff and add new things in. I would recommend documenting the design process or everything you learn while you're doing that project, because that way it's a lot easier to write your case studies and easier to write about your portfolio that way. And if you do it as you're going along, then you're pretty much done it. Every time you do a new project and you know this project is going to end up in your portfolio, then start adding things together. How to be bold while elaborating design decisions and don't lose your temper. Kind of resonate with this. I wouldn't say I've lost my temper. Well, I have, but maybe not publicly. It's a lot easier right now when you're working from home. I mean, you can hit that mute button, have a little bit of an outburst, and then turn mute button back off and be able to construct your answers correctly. The one thing I would always say is try and back up everything you do in design with research, because nobody can push back on research, and if they do, you just turn around and say, look, this is what I recommend based on this outcome and this research. If you go against this, then you're going against my advice and the decision is kind of on you and it doesn't perform well with the issues that you already raised, then that isn't on you. That's on the company or whoever made that decision. They will always come back around and they will always admit defeat, and when that time happens, you just go, that's okay, let's figure it out and let's sort it out now. I've always found it a lot easier to do it that way than to be able just to push back in general, because at the end of the day, and everyone is entitled to their own opinion, so if they want to give their opinion and they want to go against your advice, then it's completely on them. Is there anyone who inspires your YouTube content? I don't necessarily watch other designers on YouTube. I mean, I will if I'm looking for some certain content, like if I knew I needed help with Figma, or if I knew I needed to research a certain topic, then I'd have a look. I would say the one designer that I do always follow is Jesse Showalter. I think he's an amazing designer, and I think his content is pretty cool. And every time I watch his stuff, I learn something new. So I would probably say Jesse Showalter. Also a lot of female designers that I follow as well, like hello, I'm Alexa, Femke Design, creators who do a lot of lifestyle styles. One of my favorite YouTubers is Sierra Schultze, content, I love her style. I love everything that she lives and breathes, which is all about self-confidence and self-love. What did you study to get into UX and UI design? So I actually have a whole video on my UX journey, and I'll put it in whichever the card ends up above. I can never tell which side. How to document all the UX process, so all the UI, I think that means as well as the UI. Again, to be able to do this, you need to know the difference between UX and UI. They do work hand in hand. I want everyone to remember that it's okay if you can't do both. I know there's a lot of content out there right now which kind of like says if you're not this designer then you're not worthy, and that I'm totally against. Everyone says that you need to be able to do everything, and you totally don't. They're two different roles. You know, with UI, it's all about documenting theory, typography, colors. There's so much that goes into it. So as long as you can distinguish the difference between UX and UI, I think you're pretty much golden. When we talk about case studies, I think a lot of new designers don't know what a case study actually is. A case study is basically documenting your process that outlines the problem, what you did to solve that problem. So what research did you take? Did you do stakeholder interviews, user test? Find that problem and then solve that problem. And when you were solving that problem, basically document the whole process from start to finish, and you just write about it. So I have one here for some tips on portfolios. I would say Dribbble these days, I wouldn't use Dribbble as a portfolio anymore. Can't really get your skills across on Dribbble, and Dribbble is so saturated. And to be honest with you, the stuff on Dribbble, I think a lot of designers have said this, it's all just pretty images, and I'm not taking that away from anyone who's a Dribbble designer. Well done to you. It used to be very much a case of status on Dribbble, and if you have a Dribbble account then you're an amazing designer. I wouldn't say that so much is the case now, because like I said, there's a lot of pretty designs on Dribbble, and they are beautiful designs. In a real life scenario, majority of those designs would never work in real life. Use a different platform when it comes to doing your portfolio, and I would say an online portfolio is better than a paper portfolio. Do you think knowing about UI is important for a UXer? Yes. I do think it's very important for a UXer to know about UI. Same way I believe it is important for a UI to know about UX, because they do work hand in hand very, very closely. This is a good question. How long did it take you to become a senior UX designer? I'm 8 years into my career, and I've been a senior designer for... it's just coming up to 2 years. So it took me 6 years to become a senior UX UI designer. But just so you know, everyone's path is different, and maybe to some people 6 years is a long time. Maybe 6 years is a short time. Didn't stay at the same company, so the company that I first started off with is not where I am today. Designers, they still ask for help. Every day I ask for help. We still work as a team, we still collaborate, we're still learning. Nobody stops learning, so don't think when you become senior you stop learning. Your deadlines are shorter, you have more work to do, you're teaching people. So that's really when you hit the senior level. What did you learn about accessibility and inclusive design? Any resources you recommend? Yeah, so inclusive design and accessibility, one topic that most designers neglect. And to be honest with you, it's not just designers, it's a lot of companies that neglect this because they think it's not important and they can refactor their code and do it later. Newsflash, do that is going to cost you a hell of a lot more money, so just do it right in the beginning. And stop excluding so many users. One of the best places I would say would be Microsoft. Microsoft have an inclusive design toolkit, and I mean it's the best documentation I've ever read about inclusive design and accessibility. Like, they have nailed that 100%, and I urge any designer to go and read about their documentation, and I'll link it in the description below. The biggest advice you would give to a solo UX designer. Now, I have been a solo UX designer, and to be honest with you, it is not fun. It wasn't for me because I genuinely love working within a team. That's just me in general. I love people, I love talking to people. I like that type of contact. I just like talking to people, to work with people within your company. You can always still be collaborative even if you're the only UX designer, and you should be collaborative and get feedback from developers. If you work in-house with developers, talk to those guys. If you work closely with the product team, work with them. If you don't have anything like that, you do have stakeholders within your company. Work closely with the client, do some workshops, do some idea generation, get feedback whenever possible. That's what I would do if I was a solo UX designer today. I'm no longer a solo UX designer. I wanted to be within a team, so I sourced that to join a team. But if you are solo, I would definitely recommend working as collaborative as you possibly can. And that's it. I hope you enjoyed this little Q&A and enjoyed me putting on some makeup. I wouldn't say the best at doing makeup, but it is something that I am really passionate about. It's something that I really like doing. So I thought I'd mix both my passions together. So I hope you enjoyed this type of content. I know it's a little bit different than my usual content, but it's also something that I really like doing. And it's also something that I might do as a feature on this channel. So if you like this type of content, why not like and subscribe, turn on notification bell to get notified every time I upload a new video. If you want to follow me over on Instagram and participate in these videos in the future, then you can do so here. And until next time, bye!